Hello, everyone, and welcome back to SpeakUp Sis podcast. I am your host, Angel Charmaine, and this is the place where everyday women and men have an opportunity to share their stories in order to inspire yours. We say what you think no one wants to hear, but everyone needs to know. Tonight, we are back. We are back in business, people. Have y'all missed me? Because I have missed you all. June, we wrapped up our 2022. Yes, we wrapped up our 2022 season with Black Music Appreciation Month. And we had a spotlight. Yes, and we had Cool P and Janice Roseberg and Ebony Lion here to sing for us. If y'all missed that, go back and check it out. It was pretty dope. And so now we're back at the beginning of our 2023 season. And I'm really excited because we're going to have a Blue Flame conversation Tonight, I've got a guest who's going to be here with me, and we're going to be chopping it up a little bit about children. And the question tonight is it the kids or is it their parents? I don't know about you all. I know we about to tell some stuff tonight because I don't know about you all, but I have been noticing in the media. I have been noticing in the news and things of that nature. These kids are out of control. All right, we about to have a show enough discussion tonight. So go ahead and get yourselves together, get your minds right, because we're going to talk about some things tonight that we need to talk about. We need to put some things on the table. We need to start talking about what's going on with our kids, what's going on with our kids at home, what's going on with our kids at school, what is going on with our kids, period. And my question is it the kids or is it us as parents? So tonight, y'all, I've got another mama in the building. She's got a little bit of age on me, so she got a slightly different generation. We're gonna see if maybe we can come up with some answers to this question. Is it the kids or is it the parents? And maybe even get some solutions under our belt tonight. Who knows? But what we are gonna do is start the conversation. All right. So if you are watching on SpeakUp Sis YouTube, thank you so much. Go ahead and click the subscribe button and make sure you also hit that notification bell because we're back. We're going to be here Monday nights, 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time live. So please make sure you come in and you join us. Those of you who are watching on Facebook, hello. Welcome into the space. And for those of you who are part of our listening audience on our audio only platforms, thank you so much for tuning in and listening. And please make sure you share SpeakUp Sis podcast with your friends and your community. So I'm going to welcome, she's not new to SpeakUp Sis podcast. She's been here a few times, but I'm going to welcome her back into the space, Miss Valerie Champion. How you doing, sis?
I'm awesome. So glad to be back. It is always a pleasure.
Yes, I'm so glad to see you. I actually just saw you. What was it last Saturday? Saturday before last.
Yes.
Okay, so Saturday. Golly, the time is passing.
Yes, it's been a week already.
It's been a week already. So not last Saturday, but Saturday before last, we had the SpeakUp Sis experience.
Oh my God. It was an experience.
It was an experience. We had an amazing time in Graniteville, South Carolina. And there were women who came in from all over Ohio, New York, New Jersey, Atlanta, Augusta, South Carolina, who were all in the building for sisterhood
Yes.
and togetherness. And we had a beautiful time. So, but now we're back in SpeakUp Sis podcast land.
Interesting topic tonight also.
Oh, yes. So before we get started, for those people who may not know who you are, will you please share a little bit about who you are, what it is that you do, before we jump into the topic?
Okay, I'm going to try to make this brief because I do a whole lot of stuff. Okay. Besides my 9 to 5, I am founder of Transforming Prayers Ministry, as well as the host of the same name, Transforming Prayers podcast. God has graced me with the vision to pray for His people, and that's what I do. I am a certified Christian life coach, as well as a certified prayer counselor. In addition to an author, a blogger, and a mama and a grandmama. Mm-hmm. Yes, I have both titles. It's a blessing.
It's a blessing, but being a grandmama is different from being a mama.
Believe it.
Y'all on some other stuff as grandmamas. Yeah. No. So that's good that we'll get that perspective on tonight's conversation as well. Being intergenerational, where you have reared your own children, where you as a child with your mom, and then you rearing your children, and then now having your grandchildren. So that's 3 different generations, right, of dealing with kids and being a kid. So tonight let's get into it. Hello. Rima Healing on YouTube. Thank you for joining us. She says, good evening. We just had this conversation, and she says, hi, Miss Val. You're looking fabulous.
Thank you.
That's what's up. All right, so let's get it. Is it the kids or is it the parents? I'm going to let you kick this off.
I'm going to say both. Honestly.
Okay.
And the reason why, I'm going to give my reason. I'm going to deal with the parents first.
Okay.
And this is just based on, of course, my parents raising me and me raising mine. Mm-hmm. It's the parents, because back in my day of being raised, number one, you listen to your parents, you listen to your older neighbors. Mm-hmm. The parent wasn't getting upset if a neighbor said something to you to, to correct your child.
Right.
That was when I was growing up. And of course, I don't know if many people, do it now because of the law, but back then we were getting spankings. We were getting spankings, and so when I was raising mine, I did the same. It was I recall a time when my son said he was going to call the police, and I gave him the phone. By all means, dial 911 at your freedom. Mm-hmm. And so I think that today's parents is lacking in the aspect of discipline their own children. This is just my opinion,
right?
And based on what I've seen, especially out in public in the stores, especially Walmart or Target or wherever. And then it's also the children. For me, it's what they're being fed, as far as what they're watching, the stuff that they're watching, the music that they're listening to. You can't tell me that these things are not influencing our children, because coming up to my 3rd generation as a grandparent, I have to watch what my grandson watches and what he listens to. Because nowadays, these kids are like straight singing these new R&B, hip-hop songs. And if there's, bad words in it, guess what? Those words are coming out of the kid's mouth.
That's right. So
I think it's both the parent and the child, especially when they're at an age where I think, they should know better, but they only know better if their parents are correcting them.
So you said a lot. You said a lot. And we'll deal with the children in just a moment. Let's deal with parents. I'm going to say I'm with you on this in terms of it being sort of a both situation. However, I believe we get to a both situation because of a parent situation.
I agree.
Right. And so when we talk about this lack of discipline, why do you think parents aren't disciplining their children. There's got to be a reason. What do you think is causing that to not take place?
Honestly, the law. And I say that because I actually had defects called on me twice. With my youngest son. With my youngest son. And it was because I let me just say, I woke him before he went to school that morning. Okay, you know, and he went to school and well, let me back up. In the process of whipping him, he throws a full-blown temper tantrum.
Okay.
You know, and in the process, he fell up against the stove and put a gash in his back because he hit the little.
Okay.
So he goes to school and says his back is hurting. The teacher sees the gash, you know, and bam, there's defects. You know?
Right.
And then there was another time, you know, he got a spanking and bam, went to school, told the teacher, you know, that his leg was hurting. There was no marks. I didn't leave any marks.
Right.
But he went to school, said his leg was hurting, and she asked why. Because I got a whipping this morning.
Gotcha.
Defects again. So I think it's the law has put parents in a position to where they are afraid to number one.
Gotcha.
And don't get me wrong, whipping wasn't the only method of discipline.
Right.
But you know, punishment can only go so far for me. You know, take away the toys or the television or the phone. Back then, we didn't have all this stuff. But you know, you can't go outside. It only for me with mine, it only helped so much. But when it came to the whippings, he didn't want to get one.
Right.
You know, so bam, let me jump back into the teacher calls like. When I get on the phone, it's like,
right.
You know, so it's like, bam, he jumps back. But now I think that the law has made it to the point where parents they don't want to get involved with defects. They don't want to get. And when I spoke with the defects lady, you know, gave her the rundown. You know, and she was, you know, so you know, she was like, okay, and keep your case open for 2 weeks, you know, and then, you know, I'm gonna close it because she understood. It's like, okay, if I can't discipline my child in the manner that I see fit, you know, not to the point of abuse, but this is how I was raised.
Right. You know? So now, and I'm glad that you said that because there are people in this current generation who have a problem with what you just said at the end. This is how I was raised. This is how I learned to parent. Well, in this current generation, there's a new school of thought, and that the way just because you were raised that way doesn't mean that is the way that we need to be rearing our children. And I can totally understand that to an extent. For me, I believe what you're actually saying is that these young people don't have any fear of anything. And that is a huge issue and I'm not talking about being scared. I'm talking about reverence.
Yes.
What I see is that young people, many of them don't have a fearful respect for their parents,
right, for
teachers, administrators, the law, clergymen. So because there's this level of, I ain't scared of none of y'all. I could do what I want to do. I don't care about whether you're disappointed in me or not. I'm going to do what I want to do. When you operate at that level, you'll do anything.
It's to, let me tell you, there was a time when I would, if I saw a child, you know, misbehaving or doing something that, you know, they should not have, they should not be doing, I would speak up.
Right.
But nowadays, I hold my tongue, you know, because one, I don't know how the child is going to react, and I don't know how the parent is going to react.
Exactly.
So I hold my tongue, and I'm gonna be honest. My youngest son, growing up, you would think that I didn't discipline him. Let me be honest with you. You would really think that he had no home training whatsoever. And that's why I say it's also the children.
Got you.
You know what I'm saying? Because he knew right from wrong. Mm-hmm. But he made the decision to do what he wasn't supposed to be doing.
Right.
You know, not because of his parents, his parents, what's going on at home, because he knew better. He didn't do those things at home.
Right.
But he chose to do them outside of home. Why? I don't know.
Right. So during that time, did he have counseling and therapy and because I bring this up because in this generation that's everybody's answer. Get them therapy. or you're not getting them help and all of those things. So I want to ask because I know a bit of your story. And I understand that one of your sons really had issues when it came to discipline in school and things of that nature. So did you seek out counseling or something of that nature to be able to help figure out why he's doing the things that he's doing? Was that a part of your strategy?
Yes. Basically, middle school and high school, mm-hmm. he was in therapy.
Okay.
But here again, you can only receive the help if you want that help.
Right.
He really didn't want it. He didn't want to be there. So especially in the beginning, he wouldn't talk. He wouldn't talk to the counselor.
Right.
So I still couldn't figure out why he's acting this way. What is it that is causing him to be defiant, be disrespectful, be rude? I couldn't figure it out. So that went on for a few years. Mm-hmm. And so that's why I say I did what I could do to help him figure out why you're acting this way. It wasn't because you were being neglected at home or being undisciplined. He was getting counseling. You were even to the point where my kid was on medication for a moment.
So you even went the medication route.
Yes.
Gotcha.
Based on what the school system said was needed, to get him to act the way he's supposed to act. Mm-hmm. But honestly, that medication didn't work.
Right.
And he was on it basically almost his entire school
school
time up until he decided that at 17, they say you can do whatever you want to do. He signed himself out of the alternative school, mm-hmm. and he stopped taking the medication.
Wow.
Yeah, that's exactly what I said.
Wow.
I was like, oh, wow, you're doing this. So, for me, it's that's why I think, when it gets to when the kids get to an age where even at age 6 and 7, they know right from wrong.
They do. They do. And so here's the thing, and this is where I get in trouble with people because I personally believe that what takes place with children when they are 1, 2, 3, 4 years old is extremely important.
Yes.
And I think a lot of times as parents, and I'm not going to go heavy in the spiritual place because I will go there. But I'm going to say a lot of times what our children are exposed to during infancy, when they're toddlers, right? That impacts them. And a lot of times as parents, we don't realize that our children's brains are growing at such a rate. It's the fastest their brain connections will be in their whole lives when they're during that age. And so they're actually hearing and listening, and they are synthesizing, they're creating connections and all of these things, even when they're 1, 2, 3, and 4. Mm-hmm. And I believe that there are things that take place during the time that most parents think, oh, they don't know. that they do know. Impact them. So, I hurt myself. Okay. So that's important for us to pay attention to that I have 4 sons. And I remember when they were little, I used to get, kind of talked about quite a bit in the circle of parents, because there were certain things that I just didn't allow. My children couldn't watch TV. Couldn't watch certain things on TV. They didn't listen to the radio up until a certain age, because I believe that it would influence the way that they saw things, the way they understood the world, right? Mm-hmm. Disciplining, as an educator, I notice a lot of parents wait until their children are like 8, 9, 10, 11 before they start trying to discipline.
And it's too late.
It's too late. Mm-hmm. It's by the time a child is 12 years old, they've pretty much have a way that they see and understand the world. They're going to continue to be learning, but the foundation of how they see things, it is pretty solidified by the time they're 12 or 13 years old. So if you're waiting until your child is 9 and 10 and 11 to actually start correcting and saying these behaviors are not behaviors that, should be acceptable, you're already behind the 8 ball.
Yes. I totally agree. I think the study says that a child is, by the age of 5, mm-hmm. Their attitude is already, their personality, is established. So yeah, so what they're exposed to determines all of those
exactly.
things. It's crazy because you said no television. I think I probably would have been talking about you too.
Yeah, no, and it's not that they didn't watch any television. It was extremely limited.
Okay.
And it was monitored. So my children watched GPTV. Is what I'm so it's not that they didn't see any television, but they didn't watch movies. They didn't watch premium channels, HBO and Cinemax and things like that. When we took them to the movies, which was very rare, I'm trying to think of a time that we took the boys to the movies. If they went to the movies, it was like during the summertime when the camps, when they would let the little kids come in and they play all the cartoon movies. It was those types of things. When we got into our vehicle, we didn't listen to the radio. I had Kids Bop CDs or nursery rhyme CDs. That's what they listened to. They didn't listen to regular music. Even when the adults, I can't even say that. I was very selective on who came to the house, what we did at our house. We didn't throw parties at our house with the kids watching and included. For me, those things impact, because we are, especially if we're drinking and things, we're not paying attention to what they're seeing and what they're experiencing. And we think, oh, they're just little. But then, and if we're really honest, a lot of young people, when they talk about, a lot of adults, when they talk about being molested and things like that, a lot of times it happens when they're little in spaces with grown people not paying attention.
Yes, I agree with that.
And so for me, I chose to curate the climate and the culture of the house and things of that nature. And that meant...
So I'm on the other spectrum. I'm on the other spectrum.
You're on the other spectrum. But for me, to me, that was important.
And I can see that because, number one, you were a school teacher, right? I actually was a single parent for a while.
And I was married at the time. So there's dad, there's mom, there's all of that, that dynamic.
And it's funny because you made something you just said as far as having parties, right? What I observe, and I have to admit that I've done it a couple of times myself. When we're having children's birthday party, how do they turn into an adult birthday party?
Right.
Right. So I had to look at myself. It's like, okay, no, this party is for my child. I don't need adults. I'm not feeding adults.
Right.
So I had to step back myself from that. But it happens like even today, it's like we're celebrating Choo Choo's sixth birthday, and then you might see something say, bring your own BYOB.
Why? At the 6-year-old party,
and
right.
It's like, I thought this party was for a 6-year-old. Right. But yeah, so we if I had to do it all over again, and if, God would allow me to have another child, I would be very selective on what my child watches, especially now.
Right. Especially nowadays.
Yes.
And here's the thing. Okay, so I don't want anyone to get into a place of self-condemnation who's listening or who's watching and think, well, maybe I wasn't a good parent. No, I believe we do the best that we know how to do when we're in the space and we're doing it. Today, we're looking at some possible reasons why we see our children in the place that they're in, and being honest about those things. Because now, mind you, there are some things that I did that my children have told me as young adults that I thought, oh my goodness, and there were things that I didn't teach them because I didn't think to teach it. Things like, one of my sons shared with me about when he learned that girls had different sexual organs, had different private parts. Well, I have 4 sons.
Right.
I didn't have any daughters.
And they weren't teaching sex education in class.
But we're talking elementary school, right? You're right. He's like, he learned like in 6th grade or whatever. So the thing is that you're not perfect.
No.
None of us are perfect. We all make mistakes. What I see is that right now, parents aren't trying to minimize those mistakes. They're not paying attention to, and those of you who, if it's you, sit with it, because this is the blue flame. We've got moms on social media with their butt hanging out, doing all kind of stuff. Your kids are watching. How do you expect them to respect other women, young girls? How do you expect them to view them if they see you dropping it like it's hot, your butt out? I mean, literally butt cheeks hanging out and things of that nature. How do you expect your son to treat women and respect his teachers and things when you cuss his mama out every chance you get? You know what I'm saying? If every time you get on social media is be that, this, and that, and the other, everybody's walking around talking reckless, right? How do you expect children to understand and process these things if they can cuss folks out at 2, 3, and 4 years old, and then by the time they get to 1st and 2nd and 3rd grade, you're like, don't say that. But you've been letting them curse. Folks, you've been letting them curse you for years, right? And now all of a sudden you just expect that they're going to change. So I believe there was a time when there were certain things that just weren't acceptable.
Right.
They just weren't acceptable. Like, we don't do this. No. And there were repercussions for doing those things. There were consequences. Now, our children don't have consequences. They can do whatever they want to do, and nothing's going to happen.
One of the things that as my boys got a little older and, they started to get interested in girls, one of the things that I planted in their ear was, you do not put your hand on no female. I only have 2 sons that I birthed, but as you know, I have a host of godsons.
Right.
that went for them too.
Mm-hmm.
And they knew that if I found out it was happening, I cut them off.
Right.
You know, because that was their consequences. They don't want to be cut off by Mama Valerie. They just don't want to be cut off.
Right.
You know, because the situation arose once, and because I didn't know the full detail, I just know that you put your hand on a female.
Right.
I don't care if she did, hit you first. And, and so I cut him off.
Right.
And he had to explain. He had to apologize to her,
mm-hmm.
And he had to vow that he would never put his hand on another girl before. So, it's out of respect, because I asked him, I said, now, what if a boyfriend of mine,
mm-hmm.
put their hands on me? How would you act?
Right.
Well, if she had brothers, or her father would act the same way.
Exactly.
So it's all about what we teach them at an early age.
And notice what you said. He didn't want to not be around Mama Valerie. That means there was a level of respect that he had for you.
Yes.
You see, and I believe one of the major issues is that our young people are not taught to be respectful. I share this often about when I was a school teacher, and students would come in and say, I didn't have these issues because my students, they didn't know Ms. Wright or Ms. Matt was crazy. They would add, every now and then somebody said, Ms. Wright, if a student hit you, will you hit them back? And I would go, I ain't never met one crazy enough to try me. So I don't know what I would do, right? So they would go, I think Ms. Wright put hands on you, right? So, but I never had that issue because I didn't disrespect my students, right? But they would come into the classroom like, this teacher, so-and-so and so, and they would be mad. And my mama said, I don't have to respect nobody who don't respect me. That, to me, is faulty teaching.
Yes.
To a child who is in school, who has adults who have authority over them, who are responsible for their livelihood. And I would have students to come in and say things like that. And I would say, hold on a second. First thing, understand, you're a student. And as soon as you go off, nobody's going to want to hear anything you have to say. Mm-hmm. That's the first thing. Like whatever that teacher did is going to be null and void when you step out of place. So you need to understand that. My mom used to say, let the grown folk deal with the grown folk. Come home and tell me, I'll deal with the adult. You stay in the child's place, right? Second thing, I would tell them, listen, teachers earn the right to have your respect when you walk in the classroom. They were hired to be here. They were trained to be here. They went through a whole bunch of stuff to be able to be in this class, be the authority figure, and to teach you. When you walk through the door, they shouldn't have to earn your respect. They should have it just because they're the authority figure in that class, the person who's responsible for every child in that class. Now, when a teacher loses that respect, they got to earn it back. But I would tell them, the fact that they hired me to be here, that by itself, when you walk in day one, you need to walk in here with a level of respect because of the authority that I have in this classroom and because I'm responsible for you. But when you have parents who teach their children, that teacher got to earn your respect. You're starting this off on the wrong foot. And so then you now have children who feel like they don't have to respect any adults.
None. Mm-hmm. My son, and I keep going back, to my son because it's my experience. But I would tell him that, honestly, your teacher is your parent. Mm-hmm. Let me just be honest with you.
In that classroom?
Yes, in that classroom, your teacher is just like your parent because she is responsible for you the whole time that you're at that school.
That's right.
Now, when you leave school and come home, it's a different thing. Mm-hmm. And what I also you mentioned it. It's like, let me deal with your teacher. You stay in a child's position.
Right.
This was how you stay in a child's position. You let me deal with your teacher. You don't have to, because like you said, once the outburst is done, now I'm looking at you. I'm no longer looking at your teacher.
Exactly.
As a parent, I don't care what your teacher did. Now it turns on you now because of your reaction to her reaction.
That's right. And just so that that our viewers know, I see you. So thank you for tuning in tonight. We've got a few people in our Facebook, on our Facebook page. So let's shout them out really quickly. How about that? Unique Dominique, hey. She says, hey, and she's got some fire emojis. Shannon Mason, welcome into the space. Thank you for joining us tonight. She says she's locked in. That's it. She says, and they are not their equal. Exactly, Shannon. Exactly. Students and teachers are not peers.
No.
And there need to be clear and distinct boundaries. So I agree with you, Shannon. Ashana, how you doing, sis?
Hey,
she says, good evening, my beautiful sisters. It's good to see you. Tiffany Carter, she says, you're so right, Angel. What you do and say around them matters. Yes, it does. So respect is most definitely something that is not being demonstrated. Clearly is not being taught, is not being enforced. And some folks might get mad when I say this, but when we teach young people that they don't have to listen to law enforcement, that's a hot, this is the blue flame conversation. When you teach young people that because these things are happening, you don't have to listen to law enforcement. Because this happened at your school, now you don't have to listen to any of these teachers. Because this thing happened on your job, them people can't tell you nothing. You got chaos.
Yes.
You're going to have anarchy. That is not the way a well-oiled society runs. Everybody can't just be, we gonna do whatever we want to do. We don't have to listen to nobody. You can't tell me nothing. You're gonna have total chaos. And I believe that's what we have with our young people now. We have total chaos. Teachers don't even want to teach anymore.
It is so funny. There's a young lady, she quit teaching. But now she has I wish I could remember, but she has a Facebook page, and, she just go all in on these students and their behavior, but I think it also boils down to parents trying to be friends as opposed to being the parent of the child.
Yes.
And I only speak what I have observed. I'm not your friend.
We're not friends.
I am not your
I'm your
friend.
mama.
I am your mama. I am your auntie. I am not your friend.
I'm not your friend. Now, parents can be friendly.
Yes, of course.
We're friendly. I love on you. I hug you, kiss you. But we're not friends. I'm your mama.
You're not going to talk to me like you talk
to your little friends.
No, we're not going to go there.
No.
And that is happening in our society right today, where parents are trying to be the friend of the child as opposed to being the parent of the child.
Yep. You said something earlier about the law. And I understand that, yet there's a different mindset with parents a few generations ago.
Yes.
You could call the police.
Yes.
Because I remember they started that whole call the police thing when I was younger, because I'm a latchkey kid. And I remember they started bringing some of that stuff up where, parents couldn't do this and parents couldn't do that. Georgianne was like, call them. If you think living in the foster home is better than being in your own bed, call them.
Yes, yes.
But if you call them, you leaving with them. Nowadays, parents are afraid, like, oh, they're going to take my kid. No, my kid wants to go. Come get him. And see, that was the mama I was. When my children, one of them, you can't call them then. Call them. Tell them, come get your stuff. Get your stuff and get up out of here, because you're not going to run my house. So if the issue is, and see, I'm trying to help some of y'all parents, because the truth is that a lot of folks don't know the law. First thing, the law don't say you can't spank your kids. That's not what the law say. The law say you can't hit them with certain things. You can't leave bruises or whatever. And folks are going to get mad at me and say, Angel, that's slave talk. You can say what you want to say. But these children are rotten. I'm going to call a spade a spade. They are rotten because we refuse to correct and discipline our children.
I remember one time I was fussing with my youngest son, and he decided that he don't want to stay there no more. I don't want to live with you anymore. You don't want to live with me anymore. Okay, he packed his clothes in a black bag. And I was like, okay, well, where are you going? I'm going to my daddy's house. Okay. Packed his clothes. I gone out my house.
Bye-bye now. Bye-bye.
I called his dad. I was like, Julian is, his name is Julian. I was like, Julian is on the porch with his bag waiting on you to come get him. He was like, what? I was like, he said he don't want to stay here no more because he don't want to do what I tell him to do.
Right.
And he was out there for hours. I was not going to let him back into my house because he decided that he didn't want to live there anymore. You don't have to live here.
You don't.
You do not. I am not going to break your arm or your leg for you to live in my household.
No.
Because if you cannot abide by my rules and my regulations, I say deuces.
Go stay with them foster people. I tell them that, that some of them don't feed you good. Listen, you're going to be sharing a room.
And leave the Dreamcast here.
Leave everything.
Leave the Dreamcast. Leave the Xbox. Leave all that.
You understand? and that's the thing. People say, well, the police. No. We've got to get to a place where we regain control over our homes.
That's where it starts.
Now, once children get to a certain age, yes, they're going to carry the weight of some of the things that they're doing. However, I think many of these children just don't start out with the stuff that they need in order to be able to matriculate through school well. You got a lot of behavioral problems because a lot of these children can't read now. A lot of these children can't do math, right? A lot of times they're problems in school because they don't understand what they're doing.
And they don't ask.
Right?
And the parent is probably not sitting down working with homework. Let me just be honest.
And even I remember, so for those of you who don't know, I'm a former educator, about 17 plus years in the educational system. And the truth is this. Even back in the day when our grandparents could hardly read, some of them couldn't read, couldn't write, couldn't do math except count money. Now, they knew how to count money. Now, that's one thing. But the statistics will show that even if a parent doesn't understand the work, sitting down at the table with your child while he or she is doing the work is helpful. Just being there with them to monitor, to make sure that they are doing the work, for them to be able to ask you questions, for you to try to figure things out with them, or just be there with them. It is helpful. And those children tend to do better, even if their parents don't understand the work, the fact that they're sitting down with them, not off in a room doing whatever, or whatever you're doing. You've got to train children to be engaged in their own academic lives. So once my boys got to a certain age, I didn't have to go to the school unless it was something that they needed me to do, because up to a certain age, I taught them how to be engaged. I taught them how to do things. I taught them, helped them to love learning so much that they didn't need me to be in that space. And then they got to a place where they didn't really want me in that space, right? But that's the thing. It is doing some things differently. When they were little, they didn't get video games and stuff. I went to the Walmart and the Target and bought activity books. They got activity books. You know, the activities that we did with them were academic in nature, right? Other people were saying, you ain't going to get them boys. No, they don't need it. All they had to do was whatever academic things that we gave them. Now, some people may say, well, you took away some of their childhood or whatever. Well, for me, I'm kind of apples and oranges right now. And I'm like, you know, they still fruit. They might, you understand? Did I drop the ball in some areas? Yes. My child didn't know that girls had a different part till he was in the 6th grade. That's not a good thing.
Right.
He's not happy about that. When he shared that with me, that was a mama, you didn't do a good job moment that he shared. You understand what I'm saying? Mm-hmm. So it's not that one way is better or the other, but when we're talking about what's wrong with these kids, when we're talking about, is it these kids or is it, no, it's grown people. It's teachers in school who don't really love what they do.
Exactly.
It's grown folks.
And you mentioned a second ago about sitting down with the child when they're doing their homework. What I realize is that as time has gone by, the teaching has changed.
Yep.
It has changed even from, not just from when I was growing up and being taught math or science, but it has changed from when my kids was in school. My grandson, to come up with 9 + 6, they want the formula is all just so different. And I'm sitting here like, but a parent won't know that if they're not sitting down with their child. Because I didn't understand the workflow, I had to tell his mom, look, I don't understand how she wants him to write out his, how he came up with the answer.
Right.
So you need to ask her, because this is a new way of them teaching math.
That's right.
But if you're not sitting down with your child, you won't know that.
You won't know.
So the child can't figure it out. He's afraid to ask when he goes to school. Mm-hmm. So if he doesn't know when it comes time to test time, then he's going to be acting out.
Exactly.
Because he doesn't know and he's going to fail. He already knows in his mind, I don't know it and I'm going to fail. So what am I going to do? I'm going to act out. Notice here, you're talking about sitting and helping somebody else's child. That brings me to community. Oh.
Beyond, okay.
Yes.
We want to talk about respect. We talk about being a friend. How about let somebody talk to your child?
Yes.
Let somebody talk to your child. This is just the truth. Most young people get to an age where they don't want to hear nothing their mom and daddy got to say.
I am so grateful. And I'm gonna be honest. I am so grateful for a neighbor guy, a guy friend. He's actually now he's the HOA president, but he was living in our subdivision when my son was in middle school and high school, and he would take time out. Even right today, he would take time out to talk to him, to try and lead him in another direction, to tell him what's going to happen if you continue on this road.
Right.
Even though my son's father wasn't there, he was still able to have a male figure in his life to help lead and guide him. And I'm just so grateful. And when you say community, that's why I say, I just stopped saying something to these kids nowadays, because it's like, look, now just go home to your mama. That's all I say now. I don't even correct. Just go home to your mama, because I don't know how they're going to act.
Don't know how they're going to react. And there was a time when even if a parent didn't teach that, society still valued certain things, right? So I had students who would listen to me and they would listen to their mama.
Yeah.
You understand what I'm saying? So even though mama may not be teaching a certain thing or whatever, they still had a respect for me. I could still influence them. I could still talk to them. They still listened. They didn't do things I say don't do. They did what I said. But nowadays, because there's like, you don't have to listen to nobody. Even an outsider, children are still like, there ain't nothing you can say to them.
Right.
You know, and it's important for adults. It's important for parents to know community is important. It's just human growth and development. Most young people will get to a place in their lives where they just don't think their parents are that smart. Where they just, you know, they think they can take their mom and daddy. I don't know a person who didn't. I don't care if you The Rock. I'm sure, I don't know if The Rock got kids or not, but if he got a son, I'm sure at about 16, his son was thinking, I could take my daddy. Just because he got them muscles don't mean I can't take my daddy. Kids are like that, and for whatever reason, sometimes it takes someone who's not you,
right,
to say the same things that you're saying. They just receive it better from somebody who's not you. I don't care. And this is the thing when it comes to young moms who think because they got 5 and 6 and 7-year-olds, and even 11 and 12-year-olds. Oh, the mothers who have 11 and 12-year-old daughters, and they just are like, oh, it's my best friend. It was my best broke friend. I be thinking to myself, wait. You got 2 years. She's going to turn into a totally different person. Mm-hmm. A 12-year-old daughter and a 14-year-old daughter are two different people. They just are. And you could be the best friends, but you will get to a space in time where they just won't hear you the way you want them to hear you. They don't accept from you the way you want them to. But some stranger, some teacher, some counselor, some cheerleading coach, some dance instructor will tell your child the same thing you told them. Yes, and they'll say, well, Miss So-and-so said, so I'm not going to do that. And then you'll be like, didn't I just tell you that yesterday?
Didn't I just tell you?
Well, but you didn't say it like that, Mom.
Exactly.
Right?
That's it, yes.
So embracing community, when you curate the culture and the climate, when you choose wisely the adults that you have in your space. See, some of the problem is some folk don't want certain people around their kids because they know them folks is raggedy. Mm-hmm. Why you got raggedy grown people in your children's lives? That's part of the problem. You know, Auntie so-and-so, you know, Uncle so-and-so, you know, cousin so-and-so, you want to keep your children away. Well, guess what? Put some people in their lives who are going to be healthy for them, that you feel confident will say the proper things to them, will say things to them that you would say, right? If you're absent, community is important.
I agree.
It's
I
important.
Totally agree. And I am just, that is one of the things that I'm big on, and I'm grateful to be able to even be in the life of my grandson. Mm-hmm. I don't override anything that his parents. That's another thing, grandparents. As a grandmother, I don't override anything that his parents tell him that he cannot do.
Right.
Let me go there first. But I also know that they are new parents. Mm-hmm. You know, they've never raised kids before. So I'm there as a guide. Right. You know, to help both of them, you know, the mom and the dad. And I have to explain that to my grandson. It's like, you know, he'll go and ask his dad, can he do something? Dad says no, but he knows his nana usually says yes to everything. And so he'll come and ask me, and then I'll be like, hold up, wait a minute. Did you ask your dad?
Right.
Did you ask your mom? What did they say? And then, you know, it's like, okay, well, no. If they said no, then no.
Then it's no.
You know, and he's looking at me like, but you never tell me no. Well, I'm going to have to tell you no, because I'm not going to go against what your parents
That's
said.
right.
You know, and that messes up a child.
Yes.
Also.
Too many voices.
Yes.
Too many adult voices. Too many chiefs.
Yes. So, and I have to commend my son, because I just knew, when I tell you, I just knew that his son, if he had a son, that his son was going to be, you know, they say you're going to get, you know, you get,
was going to be
you
him.
Get triple, right. You get triple what you gave your parents. And I used to be like, Lord, please don't let that, Lord, please don't let that. But they have done a great job, because mine started out early. And Braylon, I admit, you know, he's still a kid, but he's not as troublesome as my son was. So he don't need the type of guidance that my son needed then. But he still need that community, because they're new parents.
Exactly. I think that's a great way to wrap up in this space as well. Know your kids.
Yeah.
Spend time with your kids. I mean, we talked a lot. We talked about instilling some respect, right? We talked about community. We talked about guarding your children's ear gates and their eye gates, and discipline, right? We don't want to leave that out. Discipline. But you know what? Know your kids. Know if you've got 2 children, 4 children, 6 children, they're all different. And what you need to do with one child is more than likely going to be something very different that you're going to need to do with another child.
Exactly.
Spend time with your children. Learn what they like, what they don't like, right? Spend time getting to know what works with one and what doesn't work with the other one. You can't spank all children. Spankings don't work with all children. There are some rotten people in this world who got beat all the time. Spankings don't work for everybody. And timeout don't work for everybody. Gentle parenting, I don't even know what to say about that. We're going to throw that away, because I ain't fooling up with no gentle parents. I'm going to raise my voice when I need to.
Exactly. And
you understand.
Yes, because it's like, why are you hollering at me? Because at this moment, you need
to be hollered at. So listen, Valerie, thank you so much for coming in studio tonight and helping me kick off this 2023 season.
Yes.
It's good to be back in the studio. It's good to be doing this again. For those of you who are watching, thank you so very much for tuning in. Listen, don't forget, we launched the Speak Up Sis magazine. Yay! Please make sure that you go to SpeakUpSisMagazine.com and download the digital copy. If you are a writer, we're looking for contributing writers. So please go submit your articles and all that good stuff. If you would like to be a guest on Speak Up Sis podcast, all you have to do is go to SpeakUpSis.com/podcast and submit the Become a Guest form. We would love to have you here for a Blue Flame discussion. We would also like to have you during the Encouraging Expert segment. And you know what? If you just want to have a one-on-one with me and talk about your business or whatever it is that you have going on in your life, you can do that as well. So until next time, everybody, please make sure that you open up your mouth and speak up about those things that are important to you and your community. Y'all take care. We'll see you next week. Bye.
Bye.